Welcome to my grape tunnel. There are probably hundreds of grapes out here, which is absolutely wild, seeing as I had one singular bunch of grapes last year. But if you look up here, you can see all of the grapes up here, and that's only some of them. So this is where we were, and then this entire pergola is also covered in grapes. I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do with them all. I was not prepared for this abundance. Maybe I will have to get into winemaking or something, who knows. Also, hi, if you're new here, I'm Rachel, and this is my garden. I have been gardening in the upstate of South Carolina for several years now, and today we are going to look at everything and see how it is doing, because we are so close to the abundance of summer. And also, as a side note, before we get into stuff, VidCon is coming up. I am going to be there. I am nowhere near big enough to be like a featured creator or anything like that. I'm just going there as like a normal person. But if you happen to be there and we happen to run into each other, like, feel free to say hi. I would love to chat. So this right here is the main garden. I have 4 pretty big rows of stuff going on here, and we are going to start all the way on this side. This is what I call my tomato trellis, because it is primarily here to support my tomatoes every single year. And right now we have so many baby tomatoes that are just starting to ripen. You can see they're blushing everywhere. So right now, early in the season, I am in seed saving mode. So you'll see these little bags everywhere. These are protecting blossoms from cross pollination. So with tomatoes and also with peppers, as we'll see later, all of their flowers can self-pollinate, and that is the way that you kind of guarantee that you get a seed that will grow true to type. So I'll protect like a whole little bunch here, and you come through and you tap on them so that the pollen falls into the right spot. And you can see this tomato starting to come in, and I will come through and mark that with like a twisty tie or something and take the bag off so it can grow, and that way I know that I can save those seeds for next year. If you look down the trellis, you'll also see that there are beans everywhere, these little vines that look like this. This is my purple pole bean. The name of the variety is Blue Cocoa, and I've been growing it on my trellis with my tomatoes for a few years now, and they get along quite nicely. I always get a really good harvest of beans, and it doesn't seem to really bother my tomatoes or get in the way at all. Behind me, you can also see the turmeric has been coming in really nicely. It is so lush, and this year I'm gonna get a pretty big harvest, I think, based on how good these look. I mean, this was one plant last year, and now it seems to have split into 2. And this stripe down the middle tells me that it's a black turmeric, which I've never really used before, but I'm super excited to try it out. You may notice from last time that I've gone ahead and harvested the garlic that was underneath all of my tomatoes. We can go look at that near the end. But I also have interplanted here some basil. I have quite a variety here. This one is an Emily basil. That one is a purple basil. And then farther on down the row, I have a spicy globe bush basil. And these I have harvested from one time already, but it was kind of a small harvest. And pretty soon they will be ready to go again. Let's see, I think, yeah, this one down here is already trying to start to flower, so I'm going to have to clip it no matter what to keep it from flowering. And of course, it wouldn't be a garden tour if Draco wasn't over here looking cute in the sun. Hi, buddy. You just getting some sun? Well, your little fur is so hot. I'm surprised you like this. All right, so we're looking at the second row here now. This is mostly peppers and eggplant, although there are some other things in between. One of them is my lavender. This one is a Spanish lavender, and it's been doing really well since I bought it. And then with the peppers, you'll see that I've got like entire plants bagged instead of individual flowers. So I've tried doing individual flowers in the past, and I've really struggled to get any fruit to set that way. So I'm changing my approach and trying out bagging entire plants. And I don't know if you can see in there, there is a white twisty tie around some of the stems, and these are flowers I marked that I knew that were not open when I put the bag on. And so once I see those set fruit, I can go ahead and take the bag off and let these plants kind of breathe a little bit. I think they're not enjoying having the bags on, but hopefully it'll only be like a week or two that they have to be like that. And then I can go ahead and just let them out. Saving seeds is really important to me. One, because it saves me money. Two, sometimes the varieties that you like aren't sold anymore. Sometimes companies stop carrying them, and then it's like, well, what am I going to do now? And then third, if you continually save seeds from your garden, those plants get more and more adapted to your garden over time. And so you are literally building a better plant for your specific space. There are more turmerics in here. Each of these sections started out as like one bit of turmeric, and now this is their second year in the ground. I didn't harvest last year, and you can see they're splitting like crazy, so there's probably a ton in there, and I think I'm probably gonna have turmeric forever. Interplanted with my peppers and eggplant are also these beans. This is a TARS bean, T-A-R-S, all capital, and it is a variety that has, I don't think it's an heirloom. I think it's been, it's not like genetically engineered, but I think it has been like selected to be very high fiber, high protein content, and really, really disease resistant. You can see this one here. And I wanted to experiment with something like this because, as we know, the weather is changing. Things are getting hotter. Just a couple years ago, we got upgraded from zone 7B to zone 8A. And I do want to experiment with a bunch of different plants and make sure that I am keeping up with what is actually going to survive in our changing climate. I haven't harvested any peppers yet, but you can see on here, there's some little baby bell peppers. What are you? You're Jupiter. This plant did, this variety, did really well for me last year. Made a ton of bell peppers. So I planted a lot more of them this year, and it looks like they are doing well again. My eggplant are just a little slower. I haven't seen any of them flowering yet, but that's okay. You know, if they feel like they need to get bigger before they flower, I'm not going to really argue with that. I know they will get huge, and they will probably go crazy later in the summer. You guys who've been here for a couple of years might remember that I almost always have zinnias in with my peppers. I think not only are they really pretty and they bring in some good butterflies, but they also act as a pretty good support for peppers as they get bigger. I don't like to do cages because that's like a lot of work. And so these guys get really big and they provide some sense of structure for them to lean on. I had a really hard time sprouting zinnias this year because the seeds don't keep very well. But I do have some volunteers from last year, so at least I won't have 0 zinnias, but I definitely don't have very many. Down here at the end of the row, what is really exciting is these rare perennials here that I have talked about before, my northern pineapples. They're starting to make flowers. So I am not that far away from actually being able to try this fruit. Oh, look at that one. That one's opening. And the best thing is this is the only plant of this type that I have in my whole garden. So there's nothing for it to cross-pollinate with. So I'll be able to save the seeds. But hopefully these are perennial. They might need a little protection in the winter, but theoretically they should come back. I was just about to show you guys my fennel plant, and I realized we have a little friend in here. Can you see him? He's a very green little praying mantis in there. Usually he would be really hard to spot because he blends in so well, but because this is a bronze fennel, he kind of sticks out. I hope he stays safe. Definitely there's a lot of little leaves in the way to keep him safe. But yeah, look at him go. Little beneficial predator. Also, check out this plantain. This is technically a weed. I have a whole video on how it's a medicinal weed and I like to harvest it. But yeah, look, this looks amazing. Didn't even have to work for that. It's like 50 times bigger than the ones you see growing in my yard. I also have been having a good time letting the dandelions grow this year. They don't super get in the way, and if they are in the way, I will pull them up. But I've been harvesting dandelion stems because I learned how to make a basket with them. Just a random video I found on YouTube. And so now I'm like, ooh, yay, dandelion stems. This is my other cat, Kata, in the garden. Yeah, that's you. She's a little bit more of a menace. If anybody's going to sit on a plant or chew it up, it's going to be her. Meanwhile, the baby has moved into the shade. Yeah, I thought you might be getting too hot. My echinacea is blooming, and we've got these teeny tiny little bees on it. Look at them go. Look at their little pollen legs. Before we go on to the rest of the garden, I do want to show off my little pawpaw seedlings. I was mentioning last time, these things are notoriously difficult to germinate. They take anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months. And I have 6 of my 7 seeds that have germinated. And this one is the last one, and it's pushing up. Like, I think it might also be germinating. So that would be 100% germination if that comes up. And these guys actually look pretty good. I was a little worried because they seem to be getting stuck in their seed shells. But all of them have pulled through and they look really good. This one's the oldest. Yeah, I'm really excited for these. Okay, so the trellis row, the arched trellis row, this first one has a ton of beans on it. The inner walls are a scarlet bean, not a scarlet, what is it called? A red velvet bean, sorry. So these are a red velvet vining bean, and then on the outside I have my purple noodle beans, and I don't know why this side is growing so much faster. These are planted at the same time, and this actually gets more shade than this side because of the tree here. So that's just really interesting to see. I don't know why. I think usually this side grows way faster, but yeah, I overplanted. There are so many more plants here than I would recommend because usually seedlings get eaten around here, and I wanted to compensate for that up front. And then the seedlings did not get eaten the way I thought they would. So now we have so many plants, and I can't bring myself to kill them. You can kind of see the leaf difference here too. I just want to show you between the noodle beans. They've got this like a little bit more elongated dark green leaf shape. And then these are like wider, fatter leaves. These are the red velvet bean, and they're also not quite as dark green as the noodle beans. And then you'll see a difference in the flowers too. The red velvet beans are starting to make flowers, and those look like kind of what I would consider normal green bean flowers. And then the noodle bean flowers are going to look totally different. On my second arch, I have a little perennial cucamelon over here, which, looking at the state of it, I think this is going to be a weed in my garden forever. It goes all the way, and I even have some sprouting up over here. It's kind of crazy. These are just now starting to make little fruits. You can see that right there. They're smaller than a traditional cucamelon, and they taste about the same in my opinion. Here's a teeny tiny one. So I've got those over here, and then this is my tromboncino squash. I never did get another one to germinate. Oh, and look at that. These are the first squash bugs. This plant is supposed to be really resistant to these guys. I might still squish them anyway to give them a chance because there's always going to be more. You can see they're making eggs right there. And you'll know they're squash bugs because when you squish them, they almost smell minty. It's really weird. And they will lay their eggs, on the bottoms of your leaves, often right in like the crook of it down there. I don't see any yet, but they will come. They always come. You can never ever fully keep up with the squash bugs. Oh, there's some. They've been busy. That's what they look like, squash bug eggs. I usually tear out that piece of leaf and I go over to a rock and I squish them between like the back of my fingernail and a rock. And that's how I make sure that they're fully squished because they are like kind of hard, surprisingly. So yeah, I just set them on the rock and then crunch them like that. Oh, and look at that. This is also a bug that you'll see people call squash bug or squash beetle. It's like a little ladybug relative that kind of eats on the leaves. You can see the damage from it right here behind it. These I don't find to be very much of an issue. Meanwhile, these guys as children will literally suck the life out of every single leaf. I mean, they can survive this little bit of chewing damage, but once the little nymphs go to town on your leaves, it's going to be rough. These bugs are the main reason that I have not grown squash in a couple years, because it's just so frustrating to have a healthy plant die pretty quickly because the population gets out of control. And so the tromboncino is supposed to be resistant. We'll see. Oh no, I've caught Kata in the act of peeing in my corn. Look at her, she doesn't even know she's doing anything wrong. Can't really blame her though. It is very nice soil over there. Anyways, so this is my corn. And what I wanted to show you is actually in this area where Kata is sitting, you can kind of see this section of plants looks not very good. It's almost kind of square. And that's because as I was clearing this out, I was like, I'm going to put down some cardboard and then put compost on top of it and then plant into that. And that turned out to be a mistake for some reason. I didn't have enough to cover the whole thing, thank goodness. And you can see very clearly like the edge of the cardboard here. These ones look great. This section didn't have cardboard. It all looks great. And then that section looks pretty terrible. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully you guys can learn from my mistake and not do that. But everything else, it does look really, really good. I planted some southern beans in between them, and they are growing up at about the same rate, which is awesome. Also, my corn beads sprouted, so that's what these are. They are not for eating, they're for making jewelry, which is crazy. It's like a Cherokee corn bead. So I'm just gonna have some fun with that. Maybe from this side you can see a little better what I'm talking about. This like very kind of square cutout of where they look sad. It's so unfortunate. This section over here isn't corn though. This is sorghum, and that's why it's planted so thickly, is because I just kind of scattered it. And I was like, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and I'm not gonna worry about it. There's a tinier piece of cardboard here. You can even see the yellow on these leaves. Like, these just look not good. So unfortunate, but at least all of that is looking really good. And then if you remember down at the end here, I have a lemon balm, and I was starting to get nervous about it taking over. So I chopped and dropped all the foliage I could reach, and it is going to come back, I promise. But this will at least keep it from being like super invasive into this section of the garden. I do want it to go that way though, and kind of crowd out the grass. All right, we're on to the fourth row, and in this back corner here, last time I promised I would show you my lavender. This is a different kind, and I forgot. I don't know what kind it is, but that's what the flower looks like right there. It is doing really well. I have struggled to keep lavender in my garden, and hopefully we'll get at least one of these varieties to stick. But basically this whole section here, I still haven't really done much with. I have like a couple of little things growing. There's like some volunteer potatoes, a few Egyptian walking onions, some really sad looking kale from the spring that is like not really edible, but also not dead. A lot of them did die. And we've got a little turmeric here. I have a couple of carrots that are going to seed. Don't they look gorgeous? I will save seed from these, but I didn't get enough of them in this area to survive to actually harvest carrots, which is a little sad, but I will eventually learn how to get good carrots and get the timing. I hit it sometimes, but not consistent with it yet. And then we go farther down here. I put one of my lemongrass in here, and then these two flags, these are a couple of mushroom blocks I had left over from when I inoculated these logs a while ago, and I found them in the back of my fridge, and I was like, well, they're not doing anything, so I might as well plant them and see if something happens. I also have in here, this is, I think, my Korean celery. And then over here is my meadow parsley. This is supposed to be a perennial parsley, whereas most like standard parsley you would get would be biennial and die after 2 years. That one's supposed to not. It's still really little, but seems to be doing good. And then over here, I have my perennial kales, another turmeric, and I had perennial leeks in here, and they were looking so good. And then I think something about the immense amount of rain we had really screwed with them. And so now I have 1, 2. I mean, look at this guy. He's like alive but not doing well, and I don't know why. And then this one looks somewhat normal, but I had like 6 or 7 in here, and now I just have the 3. Also over here is my perennial sweet lettuce that is starting to flower, and then also my salad burnet back there, which is actually taking over quite well, and I'm really happy with that. So this is all of the garlic that I have harvested. It is not as much as I would have liked, because that one bed was supposed to be full of garlic and ended up not being. But look at this giant one. Like everything else, like if we put maybe one of the more average sized ones next to it, you can see these 2 are the biggest, and this one is obviously by far the biggest. And I don't know why it's so big, but I am happy with it. All right, we are about to go check on the raised bed garden now, and before we do that, I do just want to quickly remind you that if you are a new gardener, I have created an entire free course here on YouTube to help you plan out your garden. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's great if you're new. It's also great if you have done this before, because it includes a lot of things that I wish I had done when I was new, and that maybe even if you're seasoned, you haven't thought to do or haven't organized your thoughts on how to do it. So I'll link that below, but go check it out. It's all free and it's all right here on YouTube. Okay, we'll come over to the first raised bed here, and this one has mostly sage in it because this sage has taken over. I did plant out my skirret here. This is a pink skirret. It's gonna make, if you've never heard of it, it's a perennial, and it's gonna make like a pink root. Not all of them are pink. I think generally they're white. But this is a special one, and it will be kind of carrot-like, so it'll be a perennial carrot substitute. And if this goes well, I can spread it around, and maybe I never have to worry about planting carrots ever again. I also have over here some oregano that is flowering, and I have my pretty like little purple variegated sage that I planted, and then I have my thyme that is it's still here, but it's definitely not as vibrant as it used to be, and I've got to like kind of pull some of the weeds out of here and give it space. And meanwhile, the thyme over in this bed is just in its prime. This is the best looking thyme I have right now. It looks great, which is why I'm not really worried about the other one, because this right here is already more thyme than I could ever use in a whole year. The garlic chives right here, doing great. There's also onion chives in here that are doing better than they usually do, but compared to the garlic chives, like, they're just not as well adapted for here, I guess. I think also I have little seeds. There's some grass in here, but there's also some, like, you see the thinner little sprouts? I think those are chive sprouts. And I don't know if it's from this guy or from the other guy, because I let them both go to seed, but we will find out. As long as the grass doesn't take over. In this top part, I have potatoes. These are getting close to being done. I think you can see they're starting to die back a little bit. Usually you wait for potatoes to die back more before you dig them. So these aren't quite ready yet, but they are starting to get there. And then my Greek oregano is going absolutely insane. I mean, look at this. It is absolutely taking over. And right below it are my mountain multiplier onions. I need to weed these, but despite that, they're looking really, really healthy. I'm hoping that I can actually start spreading them around the garden next year. And I have to really back up to show you this, but these are my sunchokes. I swear they're growing like 6 inches a day. They are going absolutely crazy. Like this is my eye height right here, and then I have to look up to see the top of it. They're gonna start flowering soon. I think This is a sunflower relative. That's why it's called sunchoke. And it will make some really good tubers for me to eat. I also have in here evening primrose, which also makes an edible tuber. And then if we look, yeah, you can see this plant right here. The vine is American groundnut. It is climbing these exactly as I wanted. And so at the end of the season, we will also get to harvest those and try out how those taste. This white raised bed here is mostly strawberries at this point, although it does have some valerian flowering in it and a few asparagus here and there. This one in particular is looking pretty healthy. And I think, yeah, we've got some more little baby strawberries, but I haven't seen any ripe ones in a minute. Yeah. There'll be a few more ripe strawberries out of there, I think. I know I have some everbearing somewhere, and I think this is where I put the everbearing strawberries. Most of the strawberries I have are June bearing because I like to get them all done at once and then make jam with them. But if you like them for fresh eating, everbearing is really the way to go because you'll kind of constantly get small harvests over the season. All right, and so this bed right here is entirely sweet potato. You can see they're taking over. And then this bed right here, I just recently finished filling it, I think yesterday. It is full of logs, the way this one is. I did logs, I did a layer of wood mulch to kind of fill in the cracks, and then I put some compost and some bagged topsoil over the top of that. And in this I immediately planted more corn and more southern beans because I'm worried I won't get enough from that other section that's looking bad. And then everywhere you see a blue tag is where I've planted a mushroom block. And that's why I got the idea for the other ones because North Spore was advertising these specifically for planting in your garden. And I was like, that sounds great. I'm gonna get a ton. So I've got 3 in here and I have I think 5 more that I need to plant in other areas of the garden. So I'm thinking as soon as I have time, I will finish filling this up. I think it'll be peanuts this year. I think that's what I'm gonna do. And then over here, we have still a few garlic left. I pulled the garlic from the rest of the garden, but these were a little behind. And they're starting to look like they might be getting ready. The last time I pulled a test one, the bulb hadn't really split into cloves yet. It was still a little bit more solid. But these should be ready fairly soon. And also, if you remember, I was talking about the southern beans that I had planted in here and how they looked really bad. They were getting aphids and I thought it was a soil issue. And if you look at them now, you can't even really tell. Like if you go down to the bottom, oh, hello spider friend. That's one of those little writing spiders, writing on paper. But you can see how bad the leaves down here look from that aphid damage, and it seems to have outgrown it for some reason. I don't know why, but they are doing much better. So not going to really argue with that. And I have my single amaranth in here. I have tried so hard to get more, but right now it's really just this one. And I do want to put amaranth in other spots in the garden. Maybe I'll put amaranth in with the peanuts. I don't know. Like grains and a nitrogen fixer seems to be the thing to do because corn and beans do so well together. So why not peanuts and amaranth? We'll try it out. But this is a pink one. It's supposed to be decorative, but also edible. So I'm pretty excited to see it start to flower. And then of course we have the berry patch. This might be the most productive year I've ever had for it. Right here, first of all, this is my St. John's wort. It is doing such a good job being a ground cover, and you actually can't see it. I mowed yesterday, but this section of lawn is just St. John's wort. And I would not be mad if that trend continued. Honestly, I hate the Bermuda grass. It gets into everything, and yeah, it's not supposed to be here. Anyways, blueberries, these are looking so good. Look at how dark and delicious those look. I have, how many, like 5 or 6 blueberry plants in here. These ones that, if you remember, they were really little and they did finally get to be like a decent size. They're still smaller than the other blueberries, but they're not like teeny tiny or anything like that. And these strawberries, these are definitely June bearing and they're pretty much done now. The newer ones that I put in that were bare root are actually bearing and they're a little behind, but they're making teeny tiny little strawberries. Let's see if there's any in here. Yeah, like this little guy. Teeny tiny little strawberries. They're still delicious though if I manage to find them. The blackberries are starting to go crazy. So the canes from last year are fruiting, right? You can see that they're last year's canes, not just because they're fruiting, but also the leaves don't look great. And then you back up and you look at this like fresh growth and you're like, oh yeah, that looks way better. And you can see that this is starting to flower and these will start making berries really, really soon. And the raspberries are going through the same cycle. So you can see new flowers coming on my raspberries on these new bigger branches. And then you can look down in here and see, oh yeah, that is the stuff that was fruiting in the spring and it looks kind of sick in comparison to how absolutely insanely healthy all of these fresh branches look. And some of them have already started making their fruit. This one in particular, I don't know for sure, but my guess is that some sort of sap sucking insect got to this one. And so this is still totally fine to eat, but it just looks a little funny. This one looks a whole lot better, but with the rain we've been getting, the raspberries are getting really big and looking really nice, which I'm pretty happy with. Although I am at the point where the abundance is wearing on me. I'm getting kind of sick of harvesting raspberries. Like, look at that. I've got to come out here like every couple of days. Otherwise I miss just like a ton of them. All right, past the raspberries is kind of the perennial fruit setup. This is my pineapple guava. It is almost certainly not flowering this year, but it looks amazingly healthy. So we probably just have to be patient another year and we'll start getting fruit off of that. My dwarf pomegranate is coming back really nicely. I don't expect it to flower this year. It tried flowering last year and I probably should have stopped it because it was too baby, but at least it survived the winter. This fig right here is doing super well considering it had to come back all the way from the roots and it didn't come back from its stems at all. It is a little behind, like you can see it's like maybe starting to form fruit in there, but there's no real fruit forming on it yet. Meanwhile, this one that did come back from its own stems, and you can see that this is the woody stem and the new growth on top of that, we have figs and they're looking really good. There's maybe like, I don't know, 10, 20 figs on this plant. I'm pretty excited about it. Now also, I have these are my squash for this year. I have some loofah and some magic cushaw. Again, these are supposed to be really resistant to the squash bugs and the vine borers. We will find out. I'm trying to grow enough loofahs to not have to buy sponges next year, and we'll see how that goes. They're moved off to the side right now because I was mowing under here. I think this will be the last time I can mow under them because you can see they're starting to vine out. And the idea, I'll throw some of the wood mulch under them and try and keep the grass back, but really they're going to take over in between here and I'm going to be okay with that and let them have the space because I'd rather them have this yard space than give them some of the nicer garden space. This is a pomegranate that I planted new this year. It's got a little friend up there, and the citrus is looking really quite good. I was a little worried about this one. I couldn't remember if it was grafted or not. I was pretty sure it hadn't, but my friend who was there when I bought them said that she thought it might be. And so this most beautiful branch is coming from the base. And I was like, well, if it's grafted, that's no good. But it's not grafted. I asked the guy I bought it from. So this branch can stay. And this other one that is definitely grafted is also doing really well. This one's a kumquat, and the other one is like, oh, there she goes. This is a kumquat, and yeah, I don't know if it's gonna fruit this year. I think it tried last year, and it didn't really properly set any fruit, and I don't know if I should let it fruit this year because it's still kind of small. But if this one tries fruit this year, I think that's going to be in a way better position to do that. Okay, and we're coming up to the final little section. These are some new thornless raspberries that I had put in. I didn't expect that a different variety of thornless raspberry was going to be all that life-changing, but even though they're new plants, this one had some older canes on it, and it is making like a few berries. And honestly, the flavor difference is wild. The other ones are really tart up front, and these ones are like really sweet up front with a tart finish. And I'm just like, wow, that's kind of incredible that they can be so vastly different. And this one, I'm still not sure about, but I'm more excited than I was to actually try the flavor of it. So yeah, these are looking great. And my elderberry, which I thought was not setting any fruit, you can see it is setting fruit sparsely. There's definitely some on here, but it's like barely any at all. And I've been told this is kind of normal for the first time that it flowers, so I'm not very worried about it. So I will get like, I don't know, 10 elderberries and it'll be fine. Check out the mimosa tree flowering. These are invasive here, so you really shouldn't be planting them on purpose, but this one's already here. And I hate that it's invasive because it's really gorgeous, like the way that it just like spreads its foliage. It's such a pretty shade tree. But if you can prevent them from spreading, you really, really should. This is a better close-up of what they look like so that you can ID them properly. These are the flowers, and then they've got these beautiful little fern leaves. And probably right now, if you have one of these, you have like a million little babies popping up everywhere in your yard. And while we're on the subject of some of the wild trees, it is wild cherry season here. So this is my compost pile, and right above it, I have a wild cherry tree that is making like decently sized fruit, I would say. I'm not entirely sure what to do with it. I've tried a few. They are a little tart. But like maybe I could make something medicinal out of this. Wild cherry trees are supposed to be medicinal, but I haven't really looked into it. You can see all that fruit up there. If anything, they are a fun little novel snack. All right, so as a reminder, if you are interested in planning a garden that meets your needs, is very productive, and also just like makes sense for the space that you're in, check out the free garden planning course that I have down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy gardening.